Hello and welcome back to my channel. I'm Erin and today I'm going to be sharing with you my 2018 booktubeathon wrap up. As far as the booktubeathon goes, this is my second year participating and I definitely did better this year than last year. Although neither last year or this year I did any of the video challenges. I mean, I tried to vlog both years, although last year I think I actually managed to vlog a little bit more than this year because I got kind of caught up. But I do still have one up and I'll link it somewhere if you want to have a look. And I also have a collection of clips over the other few days that I will edit together and upload as well. Even though there isn't much commentary on the books, you can still kind of get an idea of, you know, like how I found it and what I was up to. Aside from that, the biggest thing that I managed to accomplish, which to me makes this year much better than last year, is I read 7 books in 7 days and I'm so pleased about it. But yeah, I had a really good time and I thought I would share with you my thoughts on some of the books that I read over the week. So the first book that I read was The Water Cure and I kind of enjoyed it. The prose is absolutely beautiful, like it's seriously unbelievably written. The story I do think is a little bit weak, but I think maybe, you know, like after thinking about it for a little while, the weakness of the story might be intentional. This is a feminist dystopia and the way that it's written is very vague. You don't really know what's happening, but it's very compelling. If a little bit predictable kind of in the second half of the novel. But the reason why I think the weakness of the story might be intentional is because I think it might be the way of equating the, you know, like the girls as the narrators, confusion as to what's happening and what they're supposed to do and where they are. With, you know, the reader's own experience, they also, you know, don't really know what's happening and they're a little bit kind of like unsure. But at the same time, when the story becomes a little bit predictable, I feel the girls as well have this kind of foreboding anticipation or knowledge of what's going to happen. They kind of know and we kind of know and we're all just waiting for it to happen. So in that way I would say it was a really good read. The next book that I read was We Should All Be Feminists and I absolutely loved it. It's only 60 pages and I think it should be required reading for literally everyone. It's short, sharp, it's amazing. I really can't recommend it enough. The next book that I read was Please Look After Mom. It's still so weird to say mom, it should be mum. But anyway, I actually read this book really late / early hours of the morning and I don't know if that affected my experience. Well, of course it affected my experience of reading it and I found it quite poignant. I ended up shedding some tears. I'm also particularly susceptible to books that have a kind of like a maternal element to them. So in that way I did find it to be, you know, like quite a good read and I was quite emotionally moved by it. However, it definitely had its pitfalls. I think the biggest one was the timeline of the novel. I don't know if it's just an error in translation or what, but it doesn't match up and that's a little bit jarring when you're reading it because the children, like we get told their ages, but then they're interacting when they're younger and it doesn't match up. But overall I did find it to be a really good read and I can definitely see why it was such an international bestseller. The next book that I read was Sebastian Barry's Days Without End and I absolutely adored this book and I'm so thankful that I finally got around to reading it. The way that it's written is so wonderful and interesting and it really brings the characters to life. And as well as that, I really enjoyed the LGBTQ plus kind of themes that were underlying in the novel. It was just written as though it was kind of like par for the course, a part of the character's life. And I really enjoyed that because it is historical fiction and that's not something that you really see a lot of in that genre. It's like it was non-central, which I personally really enjoyed. So yeah, I really don't have enough good things to say about this book. I really did enjoy reading it. The next book that I read was Nocturnes and really I found it fine. That seems to be one of my favorite words lately. It's a collection of 5 short stories. None of them particularly stood out for me and I don't feel as though as a collection they were particularly cohesive. It's kind of annoying because I can't really articulate why I didn't like it more because it has a lot of the things that I like, but for some reason I just didn't enjoy it that much. which is really odd. But if you've read it, please by all means leave your thoughts below so that I can get another perspective. But I didn't love it and I didn't hate it. It was fine. The sixth book that I read was Ali Smith's Winter, and I did really enjoy it. I didn't like it as much as Autumn, but I liked it much more than some of her other books that I've read. If you haven't read Autumn and you're thinking about reading Winter, I would say go ahead. There is some kind of minor character crossover, but generally you can read each of those books as a standalone. But I would still recommend reading Autumn if you're like, oh, should I read it? If you're thinking about it, I would recommend it because it does just flow together really nicely. Which brings me on to the next thing I enjoyed about it, which is how contemporary it was. I really love that it's so now, and the way that Ali Smith is able to kind of bring together the now and the then so seamlessly and beautifully is absolutely incredible. So yeah, I loved this book a lot. And my final and somewhat disappointing read of the booktubeathon was Meet Cute. There were a couple of really strong short stories in this anthology. In particular, there was one called The Print Shop, I think, and another one called Oomph. Oomph was my favourite in the entire anthology. I absolutely loved it, and I could have read a whole novel or like a series on that one Meet Cute. I absolutely loved it, and I was really sad when I finished reading it. But the rest of the stories, there were a couple of other good ones, but generally they fell a little bit flat, and because they're all so unbelievably short, I found some of them a little bit kind of like lackluster or just, like almost immediately forgettable, which was a little bit of a shame. I wouldn't recommend like buying this book. If you're interested in it, I would say check it out at your library or read a couple of chapters in the bookstore to get an idea. So those are all of the books that I read for the 2018 booktubeathon. If you participated, please let me know how you did in the comments. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you'd like to see some more of my videos, please do subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!